APC. I know that people are already warming. I actually was built to be in Ilorin, but the day I got this invitation, I said, no, Ilorin can wait. Lagos comes first. And I want you all to please help me give a big round of applause, a very big one, to the state chairman and the executive of the state. The reason is that every time I watch in other countries, parties organizing conferences and retreats, my heart bleeds with envy that when will we have periodic and regular retreats like this. So again, a big round of applause for the chairman for starting what I hope will be very, very periodic, half-yearly, quarterly retreats to engage with ourselves and also to engage with the people we serve. Well, this meeting is coming political history. It was difficult. They said it will not happen. It happened. But the opposition can't do their own. And they are now seeing the long road and the difficult road that we walked back then that makes us sit where we sit today. So every commendation is due and worthy for all our leaders, those who make this party possible, especially the president and all of the people I see here and those who are not here, and of course, one of our very, very unabashed, unashamed, and determined supporters, K1. He has never hidden where his support lay. And he was there from the beginning. Trust me, one of the most difficult institutions to run is a political party because it thrives on numbers. At the same time, it thrives on the freedom to enter and the freedom to leave. And those who run parties honestly deserve all the support and all the respect that we can give them. On one hand, we want to balance discipline. On the other, we don't want to lose support, and everybody must be heard. Those who do that job, Ojelabi and the likes, our kudos to you. And those who have done it behind us, before us, Balogun, Oguleye, Chifa Jomale, a very, very big thank you to all of you for keeping us together. The chairman has asked me to make a few comments, and I will just quickly go to it, about voter apathy and the sanctity of elections. And all I just need to say is that a reality of increasing voter registration and reducing voter turnout. And I think the National Secretary has alluded to this. In 2023, we had about 93 million registered voters in the country, and the average turnout was under 30%. And that certainly is not good enough. Now, the place perhaps to start is to interrogate all of those numbers and see why the turnout is reducing. And that is not work that can be done in this kind of meeting. It is work that will be done by committees, by experts, by members at another series of meetings that I believe this forum will herald. But one thing is clear. At the state level, we used to be the party that used to lead the votes, and the others followed. Our closest opposition back then used to have about 1/3 of the total votes that we got. That was what it used to look like. And so what has happened? Why have the votes dropped? And I think that is the heart of the matter. There are a lot of numbers here, but I don't want to go into interrogating all of those numbers. And there was a time when I recall that we actually turned out for ourselves 1.5 million votes. And our closest rival was still around 300,000. But since then, what has happened? I think those are the real questions that this meeting must provoke us to ask. Where are our traditional voters? Are they still with us? Are they turning out for us? And why are they not turning out enough? This is a time for honest answers and for honest questions. And I hope those questions will be asked, as I said, after this meeting by people who are resolved, as we must be, to ensure that we turn out voters for the next election. And some of the questions to ask is whether our policies and programs are still resonating with our traditional base. Another question to ask ourselves, even as members, is what is our own party reward system like? So, and also, how do we even network with ourselves? I have asked questions such as, if we wanted to undertake a particular program that involved a certain set of tradesmen or tradeswomen, do we have a register that we can consult to say who are the party members who will be interested in this? Those are questions that I think this conference provokes us to ask, because political party participation is based on enthusiasm. If people are enthusiastic, they will turn out and they will vote. So, but hope is not lost, because we are in a season of renewed hope, and therefore we will turn our renewed hope into renewed enthusiasm for our party and for our programs. Of course, some of the speakers before me have alluded to the growing demography of young people. Now, how many of our children are involved in what we are doing? How many of our children come to our rallies and our campaigns? If it is important to us, we must make it important to them. And we must find a way to connect them to it. Because really and truly, who would we be handing it over to, if not to them? And a good place to start is to ask ourselves, in APC-controlled states and state institutions, educational institutions, where are the APC youth wings? How are we connecting and getting people? Because APC can be like any other club in a university that you can join. And so these, for me, I think, are the questions that we need to ask and we need to answer very, very honestly. That is one side of the question that the chairman has asked me to speak about. The other side of the question is the one that relates to sanctity of elections. And I will do so in 2 minutes and leave the stage. All I have to say about that is that we must accept as a people that democracy is not defined, is not divine. It is man-made. And therefore, elections as a key pillar of democracy gives choice to people, and it must be sanctified by us. We created elections as human beings, not God. And therefore, we must sanctify elections by certain actions that I think we must take. And I think the first one I want to commend is that participants must recognize that to the extent that elections are man-made, there will be errors in any electoral process, no matter how great the country or the environment is. What we want to see is that those errors are reduced to the barest minimum. So it is not every error that will justify the nullification of an election. And I think that is an important point. There will be mistakes. You can't expect people who have different challenges to act perfectly in 150-something thousand polling stations on the same day at the same time. Some things will go wrong. People will fall ill. Honestly, things will go wrong. But we want to reduce the errors. Now, let us understand that some electoral outcomes can defy expectations of logical and rational people. But the question to ask is whether the electorate itself is always rational. And we have seen countries where we've seen the elections, who we thought were the most qualified persons lost the elections. And they accepted the results and they moved on. And I think it is important that we own this also and recognize that the electorate is not always rational. We are humans. The third point to make about that is that an election is an opportunity to share a message with people. I have learned that from experience. And my experience is not too big, but it goes back to 2003. So I've been involved in elections in this country since 2003. And what we found out is that in every election season, the public is waiting for a particular message. It is the party that gets that message right that wins the election. And that message is always about the things that are top of the mind for the people. I will conclude by saying that while there will always be room to improve, and we can blame everybody from the Electoral Commission to our opposition parties, not every electoral outcome is very far from what the people themselves have decided, as we have led ourselves to believe. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I said, this forum is most welcome, but it is not the platform to discuss the very detailed planning, analytical, and rigorous work. I see that the chairman has taken on board the message, and I am truly enthused to be a participant. Thank you very much.